listening to The J.R. McGee Show.
Good evening, and welcome to the show tonight. Unfortunately, we've just suffered yet another school shooting tragedy in Florida, combined with the tragedy in Charlotte, North Carolina between the Antifa fascists and the extremists of the Ku Klux Klan, and the ongoing controversy of the alleged Russian influence of our elections. Each of these involves free speech in some way, shape, form, or fashion. In America, one of our essential freedoms is enshrined in our Bill of Rights, and that is the freedom of speech. Yet our government also has an obligation to provide safety and security to our citizens. Where do we draw the line? In America, we highly prize individual freedoms and liberties, as we should. But we also highly prize protecting ourselves and our families from harm. You know, it's been said that my rights end where your nose begins. And that's worked for us for about the last 200 years. But now, it seems to be breaking down with the advent of the internet, the speed of information flow, and passions surfacing between the intense divisions between the different factions in our country today. The one thing that is certain, everybody thinks that their side is the right side. To address this, tonight I want to welcome you to my special guest, Ivan Misiura. Ivan is a very unusual young man. He's a high school junior, and full disclosure, one of my pro bono coaching mentees. He's unusually intelligent and has produced a very interesting hypothesis about where to draw the line between individual freedoms and the protection and security of society that he calls the Toleration Paradox. This paradox exists because in order to be truly free, we have to be able to live our lives and conduct ourselves as we see fit. On the other hand, government has the obligation to protect and defend each citizen from the harm potentially caused by others. Too much freedom, and our lives and our families are at risk. Too much protection, and we lose what makes America truly exceptional. This is a powerful paradox, and I believe one of the key issues of the current problems that our society is facing today. Welcome, Ivan. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a junior in high school right now, and I got interested in politics at around the age of 15. The 2016 election really piqued my interest into politics, and it just snowballed from there.
To begin this correctly tonight, what we need to do is really understand the essence of the First Amendment as it addresses free speech. So here's what the amendment says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This element of abridgment or regulation is pretty important. And it's most important that we understand that our First Amendment freedom of speech is there specifically to protect offensive, even disturbing speech. Because, let's face it, socially acceptable speech doesn't need protecting by anybody. Yet today, we see significant movements that are designed to outlaw hate speech and speech that people just don't want to hear. For example, this kid in Florida, who shall remain nameless, wrote things on his social media posts that some people think should have been enough for his arrest and detainment. You know, Ivan, that's the opposite of free speech. As a young student, what are you hearing from your peers about free speech and being offended?
I'm not really hearing anything original coming from them. It's mostly everything that's kind of going with the flow for the most part. Whatever the majority thinks, they think naturally. But so as far as what the FBI saw or whatever tips they may have gotten, as far as the free speech goes or whatever he said on social media, I don't think they should have gotten involved then. A lot of people say a lot of things, but nothing ever comes of it. But what should have piqued their interest was that this guy was literally torturing animals. He was killing dogs and with malicious intent, he was harming them. That's not something a normal person does, and that should certainly raise some concern.
The term snowflakes has been coined to describe people who are so delicate that they melt in the presence of anything that they can't handle. Opposing views and legitimate differences of opinion are now shouted down, and in some cases, on some campuses, I've seen it. People are no longer allowed to speak or even address college students because their views are different than theirs. I know I'm pretty ancient compared to you and your peers, but I remember when I went to college, and it was specifically so that I could hear and learn opposing points of view. Why do you think it is that some people are now so intolerant of anybody or any idea that doesn't line up with how they see the world?
Right, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. A great example of this is the Berkeley riots, and there's a great irony there. The protesters are using their free speech to shut up the free speech of others, and really this is because they feel that their desire to keep from being offended trumps the free speech of others, and so they take advantage of that freedom in order to kind of oppose or trump the freedom of others. George Orwell put it well when he said, "If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear."
Excellent point. Let's explore this issue of tolerance between freedom of speech and providing security to society just a little deeper. The Supreme Court, you may not be old enough, but they ruled many years ago that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And this is where the traditional dividing line has always resided. My freedoms end where yours begin. But that line, it seems to be growing increasingly blurred, especially with technology and social media. Ivan, the question I want to ask you is, who gets to decide where my liberties end and your liberties begin?
The question shouldn't be who gets to decide, but rather what is the basis of this decision. So the basis of this decision is on natural rights, which is promulgated by John Locke. Something that John Locke said was that being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. So a popular view taken on this quote is ascribed to philosophy professor at Texas University, Dr. Bonivak. And so what he says is that Locke is trying to defend the idea that we need to give up some liberties in exchange for peace. Keep only as much liberties as you would allow others to hold over you.
Ivan, those are some excellent points. And I think we have got to recognize a couple of facts here. And I want to go over these two items pretty conclusively. One is, we're never going to win an argument with others when they're arguing from their feelings or their emotions. We can't tell them they're wrong for how they feel. That's been proven to be pretty non-effective for a long time at changing people's minds. Arguing facts and logics to people who only care about how something makes them feel is clearly not working. Second, we've got to change the way we interact with people if we're going to resolve the clear and very serious divisions in our society. If it's not working, to continue doing the same things the same way, as Einstein decided, that seems like a case of insanity to me. I think both sides need to step back and remember Sun Tzu, who was a Chinese author. He stated, "If I know myself, I'll win half my battles. If I know my opponent, I'll win half my battles. If I know myself and my opponent, my victory is assured." Here's where I think we all need to approach this differently. I think, and this is just me thinking out loud here, I think we need to make the effort to truly understand precisely what the other side's trying to achieve, not what they're trying to do. Those are often radically different things. If we know what they're trying to achieve, we can figure out how to help them get as close to that objective as possible without infringing on others' essential liberties and freedoms. There may not be a middle ground, but there is a way to find a solution where both sides get something they need and protect their core non-negotiable beliefs. We see what's been working in the past is clearly breaking down today, and breaking down in a big way. One of the issues that I'm seeing today, Ivan, is this flag protest with the NFL. I think that's a perfect example. I'm a service-disabled veteran. I personally sacrifice specifically so that these people can protest our flag and disrespect our veterans and our police. I strongly disagree with their position, but I also strongly defend their right to do and say what they're doing. How do you, as a high school student, and your peers feel about this issue?
One thing that's very important to draw from this is that you're expressing both a political and a personal view in this. So your personal view is that you disagree with what's going on. So, okay, first I should explain the difference between the two. A personal view is a view held by individuals, which is what you would personally do. For example, let's take drinking. If you're against drinking, then you personally do not do it yourself. That's a personal view. However, a political view is a view that you are willing to use the force of government to kind of spread nationwide. Again, with alcohol, that would be the prohibition. So your personal view is that you disagree with what they are doing, so you will not participate in what they are doing.
Exactly.
Your political view is you tolerate politically their right to free speech and to freedom of expression. And so you will not use that to...
I won't use that to stop them from what they're doing. As much as I disagree with it, I won't stop them from doing what they've decided to go do. It's their right to go do it, and I and many of my friends and fellow veterans have sacrificed a lot so that they can do that. Let's take a commercial break, and we'll be back right after this. Are you frustrated having the same conversation with your people over and over and they just don't get it? Develop the ability to better understand your customers' motivations and have a positive impact on their decisions to significantly benefit you and your organization. Dynamic profiling is an extremely powerful leadership tool that allows you to understand what people are saying and, more importantly, why they say it. Dynamic profiling is powerful, practical, and fast. Unlike personality assessments, this allows you to deeply understand others in real time through simple conversation and observations. Dynamic profiling will also improve your hiring decisions, reduce turnover and increase productivity, increase your sales closure rates, improve customer relations, and much more. Dynamic profiling builds on your current understanding of personalities in order to quickly understand anyone through a 30 to 90 second routine, normal, casual conversation. Contact us today at info@x-slg.com or 610-908-2223 to learn how you can become a dynamic profiler.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
We're back with J.R. McGee.
Ivan, at the end of the last break, we were talking about the fact that I was willing to do something that I found obnoxious simply because I believed in people's right to go do that. Help me understand why some people want to tell others they cannot say things that they themselves find offensive. And yet, some things are offensive but true. Other statements are offensive and false. Is there a difference in how these two situations are protected speech?
Yeah, so in the first one, if it's offensive but true, the offense really has nothing to do with it. It's irrelevant. Okay, truth is not validated by feelings. And so, for example, we can go to the moon based off of science, which is truth, no matter how the scientists feel at any given moment. That's still fact. They don't connect. They're not a corollary.
Ivan, I want to go back to this situation in Florida. You know, this kid, and I'm not going to use his name because I believe that the news media is turning these monsters into celebrities and heroes, and I think that's one of the key elements that's driving the proliferation of school shootings, and I'm simply not going to participate in that. But he did and said a lot of things on social media and in the community and at school that the FBI and law enforcement is now being criticized for not acting upon. Now, in playing the role of devil's advocate here, didn't he have the right to say anything he wanted as long as it didn't hurt anybody else?
Now, in the case of social media isn't it's a public access, but it's not publicly owned. It's owned by private individuals who, just like any business or any homeowner, they have a right to decide what goes onto their site. So, just like if someone were to come on your property and use obscene gesticulation of any form that you didn't like, you have the right to tell them to get off or to abide by any guidelines that you have while they're on your property. Likewise, when you're on a social media format, you're held to the same standard, whatever those standards may be. So, and right now we see a lot of on Facebook and even on Instagram and different sites like that, a lot of things are getting censored, and so that's another exercise of this property right.
It's really interesting, but the implied right, which is not in the Bill of Rights, to not be offended is now more powerful, it seems, than the right to free speech, which is in the Bill of Rights. Isn't the right not to be offended really the death of society? Because at some point, everybody can claim to be offended by anything.
Oh, absolutely it is. So, I mean, one example of this is, of how this could be wrong, is just through, investigative journalism, right? In order to get down to the truth, they have to risk hurting some feelings. You have to break some eggs before you can make an omelet. Jordan Peterson said, "A world without freedom of speech is a world of slavery and tyranny." So, this is a tyranny of feelings and a slavery of truth, right? So as long as feelings reign, there can be no truth, because again, to get down to the truth, you have to be willing to hurt some feelings.
This is really pretty complex, and it's very interesting, and I'm really impressed with the amount of quotes that you have and the information that you're bringing to this conversation. It's really pretty powerful, especially for a high school student. But the question that I've got is, does Congress have a role in legislating how this gets resolved? What do you think?
Currently, I would say no. I think the First Amendment sums it up very nicely, and I don't think anything needs to be added to it, and I certainly don't think anything needs to be redacted. So I think nothing should be done by Congress on this issue, because I think it's all that could be done has been done.
You're a very well-spoken young man, and it's obvious that you've studied this subject, and you believe strongly in the freedom of speech, and you've used that freedom of speech. In fact, the fact that you're here on the show with me tonight, you're exercising that freedom, and you're saying some things that some people may even find to be controversial, or they may not agree with. That's very powerful. In order to resolve this or find common ground, both sides, or even three sides in some cases, are going to have to give a little. They're going to have to compromise. What happens if somebody doesn't want to compromise or doesn't agree to give up their liberty and their ability to do what they're currently doing, even though it's causing strife and discord in the community?
What happens is a different question from what should happen. So when I'm answering this question, I'm not taking into consideration any moral implications. But what would happen logically is if anybody were to not accept these terms and they were to, say, use violence in order to react to these terms, well, then violence would in turn be used against them.
Ivan, I want to touch on a really difficult topic in this, and this is this issue, the violence that we're seeing in the opposition of speech. We've seen it in Charlotte. We've seen it in California in some of the campuses. What, from a young person's perspective, what justifies violence in the oppression of speech?
Well, in most cases, violence is never truly justified, but in this case, we're going to have to take both sides, because there would be if there's violence in the suppression of free speech, then there would also be violence in the acquisition of free speech. But the big difference between these two types of violences is that one is reactionary and the other is instigating. So the instigation of violence, I would say, is never justified. But the reaction to violence through violence is justified due to the protection of whatever is in your possession, in this case, free speech.
Well stated, sir. Well stated. It's been my experience that we were trained almost from kindergarten with how to deal with skinned knees and hurt feelings. And what I'm seeing today is we protect kids from every adversity and from every offense. I have to ask, are we producing people who are incapable of operating in a normal society?
We really are, and I think that the parents that do that wrap their kids up in bubble wrap, they're really doing their kids a disservice. Think of this. Think of a young boy growing up in a poor country, right? He can't afford shoes, so he walks around barefoot on the hard ground. It hurts at first, but eventually his feet toughen up. He gets thicker skin, and then eventually he doesn't even notice any. He doesn't even notice the hard ground. Now, take that same boy and earlier in his life, put him in shoes, right? So now his feet are protected as he walks across the ground, but eventually those shoes will give out. Eventually, these kids can't be wrapped in bubble wrap anymore, and they have to face the real world. So as soon as those shoes are gone, and now his soft, protected feet are now running across the hard ground, it hurts a lot more than it would have before. His feet didn't have a chance to grow along with the hard ground and toughen up. So similarly with today's society, we're overprotecting them. You have the helicopter moms who, if their kid gets the smallest scrape on his knee, or there's a insult going around or joking, they always have to stop that right in its tracks. And the more you do that, the more dependent that child becomes upon that. But that isn't always going to be there. They eventually have to face the real world. And as soon as that happens, they're not prepared for it, and they just crumble.
I have to say that in working with you and talking with you and being with you here tonight, I got this sneaking suspicion you're not the typical average junior high schooler. And I would suspect that you probably make your classmates a little uncomfortable. Have you ever run into any situations to where they have ostracized you or tried to make you not do some of the things you want to do because you make them uncomfortable?
Oh, absolutely. In a lot of different situations. Now, I do think that as people do mature, they do this less. But definitely when I was a lot younger, this was really prominent. And really, it helped me toughen up. And I think that even down to insults and to fights, these things help toughen you up so that you're prepared for this when you get into the big leagues.
Absolutely. And, I think that you've done a remarkable job at developing into the person that you have become. And rather than let this oppression silence you, you've turned into somebody who, at a very young age, is a powerhouse. You've got this ability to not just generate ideas, but you question things and you're willing to speak up. I wish all of our young people had that approach and took that initiative. We're going to use this as an opportunity to stop and hear from some of our sponsors, and I can't wait to come back and hear more about what Ivan's got to say. I want to take a second and tell you about some really good friends of mine. Buckman's Ski and Snowboard Shops. Staying warm is important for every skier and snowboarder. The secret to warmth is found in what you wear, and the key is layering. At Buckman's Ski and Snowboard Shops, you'll find the biggest selection of long underwear, fleece pullovers, vests, jackets, pants, and shells. You'll also find hundreds of gloves, mittens, hats, neck-ups, and socks you can choose from. So, get outside and stay warm this winter. Stop by Buckman's Ski and Snowboard Shops in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exon, PA. Or you can visit them online at buckmans.com. Are you frustrated having the same conversation with your people over and over and they just don't get it? Develop the ability to better understand your customers' motivations and have a positive impact on their decisions to significantly benefit you and your organization. Dynamic profiling is an extremely powerful leadership tool that allows you to understand what people are saying and, more importantly, why they say it. Dynamic profiling is powerful, practical, and fast. Unlike personality assessments, this allows you to deeply understand others in real time through simple conversation and observations. Dynamic profiling will also improve your hiring decisions, reduce turnover and increase productivity, increase your sales closure rates, improve customer relations, and much more. Dynamic profiling builds on your current understanding of personalities in order to quickly understand anyone through a 30 to 90 second routine, normal, casual conversation. Contact us today at info@x-slg.com or 610-908-2223 to learn how you can become a dynamic profiler.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
We're back with J.R. McGee.
Ivan, I want to use this time with you to dig into something. I think you've got a really unique perspective here. And I want to jump right in the middle of the controversy of all this. I'm not afraid of controversy. But, the competition is between two extremist points of view. And it doesn't matter what the issue is, there's always going to be two opposing points of view. And I want to go back to Charlotte, because you've got this battle between the Antifa fascists and the Ku Klux Klan fascists. Both are fascist organizations. And a working definition of fascism is a political or social system based on a powerful leader and or state control of social and economic life. And here's the key: with no expression of political disagreement allowed. That's the precise definition of these Antifa people. And ironically, Antifa stands for anti-fascist, and they're a fascist organization. It also describes the Ku Klux Klan, which is a fascist organization. Both groups are specifically trying to oppress and eliminate people from our society and the participation of those people from our society that they disagree with. I think they're two sides of the exact same coin. Now, I would be really interested, from your perspective as a young person and from the perspective of the peers that you work with, how are these two extremes viewed? And what do you guys think about these?
Oh, well, certainly we condemn both of them. So historically, the KKK was pretty much created, and their main objective was to suppress the African-American vote, to stop them from their voice being heard. They wanted to end all their free speech. But as far as Antifa goes, they want to go, again, they're fighting a class war. They want to go against the capitalist, right? And so, well, these two they're very different ideas. They really have nothing to do with each other, but the way that they're promulgating these through terrorism, really through inciting violence, Antifa more currently and the KKK more historically, but they're inciting violence in order to get their point across, which is just the wrong way to go about things.
As a young person, you and your peers have got this unique perspective on all this that's happening today. And I believe this is the fourth time that our country's reached this point. To that end, I believe the first one was the Revolution, where we broke away from England. The second point we reached was the Civil War, which was traumatic and very devastating. Then we reached this point during the Vietnam protests and the Watergate eras of the late 60s and early 70s. And now, today, we're going through the exact same extreme divisions between, today it's liberals and conservatives. I would say that the hate between these two groups is profound, and it's increasing almost daily. That's very disturbing. I have to ask, how did we get into a situation where these two groups, liberals and conservatives, have grown so far apart on the very principles that used to define us? Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press used to be the things that made America the strength and the example that it was. And those are the very things now that are dividing us. From your perspective, how did we reach that point?
From my perspective, I don't think this was one big thing that all of a sudden hit us in the middle of the night. I think this was a compilation of several little things that we were too stubborn to just kind of give up, like small things that we wouldn't realize that how holding on to these and how staying divided over these would eventually affect us. On top of that, it's mostly because people, they don't apply critical thinking as much as they used to. A lot of people, they're Democrats because their parents were Democrats, and their parents are Democrats because their parents were Democrats, and so on and so forth, and the same with Republicans. Our party is our parents' party, or if you want to look at it on the other side, if you're a rebel, your party is the opposite of your parents' party. But either way, it's reactionary, and this reactionary politics is what got us here in the first place, and I think that's how we got here.
You know, that's a powerful point you make, and the reaction to things that are around us and how we respond to those, it drives powerful emotions. It drives powerful feelings, and I want to come back to that at the end of the break. I want to talk about those powerful feelings and why it's driving the responses that it is, the actions that people are taking, the hate that's increasing. That's very disturbing, and we have to get on top of it, or it's going to truly affect our society and where we can go in the future. Let's take a pause for a break, and Ivan and I will be back right after this.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
Are you frustrated having the same conversation with your people over and over and they just don't get it? Develop the ability to better understand your customers' motivations and have a positive impact on their decisions to significantly benefit you and your organization. Dynamic profiling is an extremely powerful leadership tool that allows you to understand what people are saying and, more importantly, why they say it. Dynamic profiling is powerful, practical, and fast. Unlike personality assessments, this allows you to deeply understand others in real time through simple conversation and observations. Dynamic profiling will also improve your hiring decisions, reduce turnover and increase productivity, increase your sales closure rates, improve customer relations, and much more. Dynamic profiling builds on your current understanding of personalities in order to quickly understand anyone through a 30 to 90 second routine, normal, casual conversation. Contact us today at info@x-slg.com or 610-908-2223 to learn how you can become a dynamic profiler. I want to take a second and tell you about some really good friends of mine. Buckman's ski and snowboard shops. Staying warm is important for every skier and snowboarder. The secret to warmth is found in what you wear, and the key is layering. At Buckman's ski and snowboard shops, you'll find the biggest selection of long underwear, fleece pullovers, vests, jackets, pants, and shells. You'll also find hundreds of gloves, mittens, hats, neck-ups, and socks you can choose from. So, get outside and stay warm this winter. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exon, PA. Or you can visit them online at buckmans.com.
We're back with J.R. McGee.
Well, welcome back. And once again, I'm with my special guest, Ivan Misiura. He's a young high school student who has generated this hypothesis that is the paradox of tolerance, which is very, very unusual, very interesting. And I want to dig into what, in my opinion, is a very powerful, interesting perspective in all this. And, Ivan, while there's no absolutes, in general, it seems to me that liberals operate on the basis of feelings driving actions. The right bases its beliefs on laws, regulation, and process. In my opinion, this is the heart and soul of a huge disconnect between the two main groups in America today. Now, let's talk about this from a high school, college student perspective. How do you guys reconcile these two very different and opposing points of view?
So I think the main problem here is the assumption that there is only two options, one extreme or the other, either extreme on the side of feelings or extreme on the side of rules and regulations. I think both of these are wrong, and there is a third option that's slapping us in the face, and we're just not realizing it. So both of these extremes are wrong, and they turn out disastrously historically. For example, on the side of extreme feelings, all that is arbitrary dictation of the feelings of some king or some tyrant. And America was born from the revolution, from revolting from that type of government. So we do need some objective set laws, rules, and regulations in order to keep stability in the nation. On the other hand, if we are strictly rules and regulations and there is no feeling, well, it's feeling that was trumping those laws that ended up that's how we got the Underground Railroad. This feeling is what inspired the likes of Irene Sandler, who saved over 2,500 Jewish children from the clutches of Hitler, and people like Oscar Schindler, who saved 1,200 individuals from the gas chambers. These heroes, they recognize that legality does not equate morality. They understand that just because something is legal does not make it right. And this feeling, this sense of personal morality, when that trumps the legality, as we could see here, it was clearly right, and they're heroic. They're regarded as heroes today. And so we see that both of these end up totalitarian, and both of these they just end up disastrously.
You've just expressed something that contains more wisdom than politicians 3 times your age have expressed in a lifetime. I think you're exactly right. And here's something that I want to explore with this for you just a little deeper. And that is, how do we know when to go towards feelings? How do we know when to move closer towards laws and facts? Because facts are stubborn things. But you're exactly right. There is no absolute answer to this. There's no one size fits all. It's a situation to where sometimes one method works better than the other one. How do we come up with a solid understanding of which is the right approach for the right situation? That's a tough question.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to find a pragmatic view. And how we find that pragmatic view is by actually understanding the end goals of each side, and hopefully being able to try to find some type, not compromise, but meeting somewhere in the middle where we're not compromising our core beliefs. For example, some of the core beliefs that some might hold are natural rights. There's not a chance I would ever compromise those. But there's some other things that are more maybe personal ethics that I would be willing to compromise in the name of further peace or in the name of unity. And so I think we need to find where that middle ground is in order for us to be able to kind of unify here.
Earlier in the show, I talked about Sun Tzu. He is a Chinese military person who wrote The Art of War. And he said, I don't need to understand exactly what my opponent's doing. I need to understand what my opponent's trying to achieve. And I think we don't spend enough time trying to understand what the other side is trying to achieve. What are their objectives? We focus all of our attention on what they're doing, and sometimes that makes us upset. But we lose sight of what they're trying to achieve. as somebody who teaches classes in international negotiation skills, I have found that understanding the objective of the opponent, not your adversary, but the opponent, there's a difference, is key to coming up with a solution where both people achieve a win-win situation. Is that what you're describing here for us?
I would say so, yeah.
We're going to come back after this commercial break and wrap this up, and we're going to look at what does this all mean and what are we going to do with it. So stay tuned. You're going to hear more from Ivan and understand exactly how this is going to affect us.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
Hey, skiers and snowboarders, are you guys heading out on a ski trip? Maybe it's just a long weekend here in the local area, or you've hit it big and you're going for a week out west. Have you ever found yourself at the ski slope and realized that you need a new pair of goggles or maybe even a ski lock? Did weather conditions change and you found you were caught unprepared? Well, it's happened to me, and don't do like I did. Don't pay up to 50% more at the slopes. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops before you go and save big. They've got everything you're going to need for your trip. They got goggles, neck ups, toe warmers, long underwear, hats, gloves, sunglasses, socks, wax, ski locks, and the list goes on and on. Let their experienced staff help you get ready for your next trip. So have a great trip, but be sure and stop by one of our 7 area Buckman ski and snowboard shops before you go. Located in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exton, PA. Can't get to one of the shops? That's okay. You can shop online at buckmans.com. It's quick, easy, shipping's free for orders over $50. You can't lose with a deal like that.
We're back with J.R. McGee.
We're back with my special guest, Ivan Misiura, and he's got a very interesting concept, and we're going to bring this home now. We want to talk about what this all means and what we need to do with it. And you know, this issue of security for our people in the face of terrorism and criminal attack is extremely serious. I spent 33 years in counterterrorism and information and electronic warfare. And what I would tell you is no family should feel fear or suffer harm from others in this country. Every person should have the right to believe and speak as he or she sees fit. And each of us has got to feel comfortable in addressing others about what we believe without the fear of oppression or coercion. And yet, multiple terrorist attacks, multiple school shootings, workplace violence, and even political oppression are becoming the new norm in our American society. This is not who we were. I don't think it's what we want. And it's certainly not where we're comfortable. Ivan, how does your tolerance paradox address the real and significant contradiction in these conflicting perspectives? Yet another tough question, my friend.
I'm going to start off with reiterating that same George Peterson quote where he said, "A world without freedom of speech is a world of slavery and tyranny." I think we can really see this with all of the different riots that are going on to end this free speech. It kind of really manifests itself. This quote manifests itself in all the actions that are being taken, the steps that are being taken for this ultimate end. Really, this is a paradox. It's the tolerance paradox, because it would seem that we can no longer tolerate intolerance, because if we tolerate intolerance, then it would seem that intolerance will eventually take over, and then we will no longer be a tolerant society.
Absolutely.
I think the key to this tolerance paradox is intellectual consistency. So, if you want to have the freedom to offend, you must be willing to be offended. If you want to speak freely, you must allow others to speak freely as well. If you want to express your ideas, you must allow others express ideas that you disagree with.
That's powerful.
It really is. And Noam Chomsky kind of hits on this, and he says, if you don't believe in freedom of expression for people we despise, we don't believe in it at all. Again, the intellectual consistency is paramount to this.
I have to say, we've got to reestablish civil discourse in our country. And your concept of the tolerance paradox, it's very interesting to me. And I think it may even be central to us discovering how we're going to accomplish this critical aspect of a free society. That's very important. We have to be able to operate and interact with each other as equals and be able to say what we think, what we feel. That's the only way we improve. The Bible says, iron sharpeneth iron. And there's a person who's closer than a brother in times of adversity. Well, these are times of adversity. And rather than looking at the other side as the enemy, I think that rather than an adversary, they're an opponent. And with opponents, you're trying to find common ground to where you both can win. And I think there's always going to be this dynamic tension between the different factions of our society. Always has been, always will be.
And I'd like to hit on that real quick. I think it's really important that what you just brought up, that we oftentimes see whoever the other side is as our enemy. And we almost dehumanize them. And back to your point of, in all of those other sections that you mentioned, the 4 different times you were this divided, going back to the Vietnam War, is I think we really didn't see each other as humans. We saw each other as only the opposition that we despised. And because of that, it was really difficult, and we couldn't really find that common ground you're talking about.
That's very important, because I think in order to achieve an effective compromise, both sides are going to have to give up something, and something that they value. That's key. There's got to be a willingness to understand the other side's point of view, and I don't think either side today has really expressed a willingness to hear the other side of view. And here's the other thing. I think today we're convinced that the other side's not just wrong, they're evil. And I believe that. I see that. I hear that in all kinds of forums and engagements that I go in around the United States. And, no compromise is ever possible with something that we consider evil. And, you look at politicians, and I could name names, but there are politicians on both sides that the other side is convinced are purely evil. And we're never going to be able to find common ground with someone that we think is evil. So I think the entire point of your concept of this tolerance paradox, there's got to be some point that protects the individual's right to free speech, and the right to keep and bear arms, and the right to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures, at the same time that we're protecting safety and security of our society. Now, how should the listeners use what we've been talking about tonight to change what they're going to do at work tomorrow? How do we use what you're showing us to change the world and make the world a better place?
Right. Again, I think I would just hit back on intellectual consistency. If you want the right to offend, you must accept being offended. If you want the right to speak freely, you must allow others to speak freely as well. Show the other side the respect and the dignity like a human, like you would have them do to you. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And again, it's intellectual consistency that's going on here, and I think that's vital to this tolerance paradox and the key to it.
I love the fact that you brought up the golden rule. And in business, I actually have what's called JR's platinum rule. The golden rule says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Now, frankly, that's the heart of true leadership. True leadership is the use of influence in the absence of authority. And if you use the platinum rule, you're not dragging people into your comfort zone, you're meeting them in their comfort zone. And influence has got to play a big role in how we resolve all these issues. Instead of hollering at each other, we've got to influence each other. And to do that, we've got to communicate effectively. How do you feel about that? How do we communicate more effectively with people who sometimes think we're evil?
I think the best thing we can do, we can't force somebody to change their mind. The best we could do is to show them that they're wrong. Make it as obvious as possible. And a lot of times we try to tell them that they're wrong, but that isn't enough. Whenever you tell somebody they're wrong, that never works out. They have to think it's their own original idea. So that's really the key. By convincing them that it's their idea, then they will accept it. Even the most stubborn of people, they adhere to this. So if you show them that they're wrong and you allow them to see it for themselves, then I think after that they'll realize, and then there will be open discussion.
Wow, that's a very good answer to a really tough question. You've given some very good answers, because I haven't taken it easy on you tonight, and I'm very impressed with how well you've thought some of these things through. These are issues our entire country is struggling with as we speak right now, and we've got some really good people who are not doing a good job at squaring this all away. And here's what I think. I think that we've got to be willing to give as well as we take. And I think here's something I've put some thought into. I think we've got to substitute hate with understanding. I think we've got to substitute anger with passion, and fear with compromise. And that's going to be one of the hardest things I think we've done in our lifetimes, politically, culturally, and individually. But I think to continue down the path we're currently following is to choose societal suicide. Look, we put a man on the moon, we can figure this out. Now, I want to thank my guest, Ivan Misiura. He's done an outstanding job here tonight. And for a junior in high school to be able to give and take in a debate like this, that's very impressive. And thank you very much for being with us. Clearly, he's not your normal high school student. I think you've got an exceptional future ahead of you, my friend. I also want to thank my board man, Mark Driver, my producer, Chris O'Brien. Thank you for listening, and tune in next week when we're going to bring you another segment about news that should be in the news. Good night, and God bless.
At Buckman's, we're passionate about skiing, snowboarding, and having fun with friends and family. Everything we do, from the gear we carry to the services we offer, is driven by this passion. Since our first shop opened in 1971 until today, we are proud that all our stores are family-owned and operated. Our online store, buckmans.com, also reflects this passion. When you order from us, an actual skier or snowboarder ships your order out of an actual shop, not some giant warehouse. It's our mission to share our love for the outdoors with you, so you and your loved ones can experience winter to its fullest. You may not have heard of us, but if you want that mom and pop feel, combined with the expert knowledge and award-winning service that comes from over 45 years of experience, why not give us a try? Buckmans.com.
Hey, skiers and snowboarders, are you guys heading out on a ski trip? Maybe it's just a long weekend here in the local area, or you've hit it big and you're going for a week out west. Have you ever found yourself at the ski slope and realized that you need a new pair of goggles or maybe even a ski lock? Did weather conditions change and you found you were caught unprepared? Well, it's happened to me, and don't do like I did. Don't pay up to 50% more at the slopes. Stop by Buckman's ski and snowboard shops before you go and save big. They've got everything you're going to need for your trip. They got goggles, neck ups, toe warmers, long underwear, hats, gloves, sunglasses, socks, wax, ski locks, and the list goes on and on. Let their experienced staff help you get ready for your next trip. So have a great trip, but be sure and stop by one of our 7 area Buckman ski and snowboard shops before you go. Located in King of Prussia, Ardmore, Montgomeryville, Doylestown, Reading, Whitehall, and Exton, PA. Can't get to one of the shops? That's okay. You can shop online at buckmans.com. It's quick, easy, shipping's free for orders over $50. You can't lose with a deal like that. Are you frustrated having the same conversation with your people over and over and they just don't get it? Develop the ability to better understand your customers' motivations and have a positive impact on their decisions to significantly benefit you and your organization. Dynamic profiling is an extremely powerful leadership tool that allows you to understand what people are saying and, more importantly, why they say it. Dynamic profiling is powerful, practical, and fast. Unlike personality assessments, this allows you to deeply understand others in real time through simple conversation and observations. Dynamic profiling will also improve your hiring decisions, reduce turnover and increase productivity, increase your sales closure rates, improve customer relations, and much more. Dynamic profiling builds on your current understanding of personalities in order to quickly understand anyone through a 30 to 90 second routine, normal, casual conversation. Contact us today at info@x-slg.com or 610-908-2223 to learn how you can become a dynamic profiler.